Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And tonight we are joined by a very special guest, Daniel Sunjata, who plays Charlie in Netflix's Echoes, which was like the number one show for many, many weeks. Daniel, thank you so much for being our guest today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you today, brother?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk to you. But I got to tell you, I became a big fan of yours back on your days on Manifest, which wasn't that long ago. But
Well, I mean, we're going back a few years that I shot it anyway. I don't know how
yeah,
long it's been yet,
yeah.
but
And
thank you.
I fell in love with your character there. And Charlie was just fascinating on Echoes. And for those of you that don't know, Echoes is now streaming on Netflix. If you have not watched it, it's a highly recommended show. It's going to keep you on
Please
the edge of
watch.
your seats. And it's going to keep you guessing the whole way and have you scratching your head trying to figure out what's going on.
Mm,
So let's get started with Charlie, the character.
yeah.
Viewers like myself, as the show progresses, really start to wonder what Charlie's motivations are. Now, in regards to that, how do you view Charlie in regards to his motivations?
Yeah, his motivations are good. And I don't really think I guess an argument could be made that there might be one or two characters whose motivations are exceptionally
Yeah.
questionable. And I don't want to give spoilers out because it sounds like maybe a lot of your viewers haven't seen the show, but
Well,
yeah, I mean, like, can I just speak freely?
well, it's been out for a while, and a
It's been
lot.
out for
This
a
is this
while.
was a
Yeah.
number one show, so we can
Yeah.
sort of
Okay.
dive into spoilers a
Let's
little
dive in.
bit. Yeah,
Yeah. I think Charlie's motivations are definitely good. He is a bit of an odd bird because he's a psychotherapist. He's a clinician. He studies people, works with people with aberrant psychological conditions, exhibiting aberrant behavior. He does this for a living. And I think that he is shocked to find an example of that so close to home. And when when Lenny and Gina start switching between husbands, acting as if they think they've got us fooled. Well, they have Matt Bomer's character fooled. They have Jack fooled,
hmm
but Charlie's known the entire time. You're talking about somebody who literally pay. It is his job to pay attention to detail,
hmm
and I think he just like when he saw that. Wow, they're actually fully committed to this. They're going all the way.
yeah,
It's not. It hasn't been a day. It hasn't been a week, and then like, haha, got you. No, it's like for a year at a time, like crazy. And I think that he just found it so interesting, but then he's also emotionally he's attached to them both, and he definitely loves Gina, his wife. I think it got to a point where there was just no going back, and he just sat back and just kind of watched it all happen.
Now,
You know?
going to Charlie's ethical behavior as a therapist. Now,
Yeah,
Gina was your patient, and
yeah,
you ended up marrying her.
yeah.
Uh, that sort of speaks to Charlie's ethical boundaries. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I hadn't ever really thought about that in particular. I mean, I guess I had, but not like, what does it say about Charlie?
Yeah,
I mean, I wonder when I never decided for myself. I'm talking about Daniel, the actor. When was the point in terms of the backstory? Like, was he sexually attracted to her while they were, while he was her therapist? Did that happen afterwards? I always assumed that it happened afterwards, that there was absolutely no crossing of the boundary
like
during
after therapy ended.
after therapy ended. I think is when they probably went on their first date.
Okay.
But, you know, it's interesting, John. They say like some of the best detectives could have been great criminals.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
I think that to be a really good, it might be true that really good psychotherapists, like dealing with aberrants, they might be well acquainted with it, not because they themselves, but that they have the propensity and the capacity to do some dark shit.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say
Oh,
shit?
yeah. You're allowed to say whatever you want.
Okay, yeah. They have the capacity for dark shit. They can understand it. They can cognize it. They can philosophize about it, and treat it. And so I think that there's something about it that they obviously kind of find attractive. I think maybe
Exactly.
they're just kind of drawn to the weirdness of this situation.
Now, the reveal to us that Charlie has known about this for a while is
Yeah,
when Lenny Gina go snooping into your private office at home, and they discover your journals.
Yeah.
And in your journals, the part that we get to see is how you explain them separately in bed, sexually.
Yeah.
Now, when it came to the whole twist in your character of knowing all along, uh, when you first read that, when you first heard about it, what did you think? You're like, oh man, damn, this is exciting. What were your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I thought, wow, what a crazy twist.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so what does that mean? That means that he knows not only that they've been switching, but he knows that I believe Matt's character's name is Jack. That
Yeah.
Jack is sleeping with Gina as
Mm-hmm.
well. So
Mm-hmm.
like it's an open-eyed couple swapping thing when it comes to it's eyes wide open for Charlie.
Yeah.
He lets it go, and it is it okay? Is it like a good thing? Yeah, Charlie's intentions are good, but there's a lot of people with good intentions that do really fucked up things.
Exactly.
And the fact that he didn't put a stop to it, didn't call it out, didn't say no, is it's certainly questionable, but
Char-
it makes him an interesting character. Who would want to just play good people as actors?
Exactly. And
No, we get into this profession to play horrifically weird individuals.
Charlie's main line is, I never judged. Okay? That's what he says
Yeah.
repeatedly is, I never judged. I
Yeah.
watched, I observed, and I loved you for who you were. Now, Charlie was presented with a question towards the end of the series. Did you love me, or were you just fascinated by what we did? And he answers by saying, I was both fascinated and loved you both. Do you think he was being honest with that particular answer?
I think he was, but I don't. I think that I think he was in love with Gina and had love for Lenny. I think that that's what happened. At least that's how it started out. When the series ends, I'm going to tell you this: the writers and the producers never told the actors who shows up at the end.
Of course, we don't know.
There's a mystery woman. No, I know that they want the audience to be confused, but they left us in the dark. So I think it was Lenny. I think it's Lenny that comes back at the very end. They're trying to set up a possibility of a sequel, which, just so your viewers know, I've heard nothing about this. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't think it will. But it could.
It could, and I definitely see a lot of possibilities with them bringing him back. And you say you think it's Lenny. I would have to agree, because out of the two sisters, Lenny and Gina, we find out that Lenny is the sort of sociopath. And we know that that's a product of her being damaged by seeing what her father did to her mother and her sort of misinterpreting it. And then in that big confrontation scene towards the end where they're at that waterfall and Gina is trying to explain to Lenny that no, Mom wanted it to happen. It was a mutual decision. Lenny was finding it very hard to believe. Now, you can make a strong argument that Charlie is a manipulator himself. He does love them, but again, fascinated from a clinical standpoint to observe this up close in real time, and not only observe it, be a part of their lives. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's the appeal to his dark side that I think was too much for him to resist. Like I said, it's a case study that's happening in real time, not for 50 minutes twice a week with this really interesting person that comes in. No, this is in my life, excuse me, happening right now in front of my face. And I think once he was able to get over maybe his jealousy, that because he did have to allow, he had to be willing to share his in order to Gina in order to experience Lenny, right? I think once he got past that, it was like, again, I think you pass it. There's a point of no return, and I think he got so deep into it that at a certain point, like if he was going to call them out, he should have done it at the beginning. By the time we get to episode 6, or not that, but like once enough time had passed in the context of these relationships, I think it becomes harder and harder. And maybe he was more and more fascinated. Maybe he was more and more titillated, more and more seduced by it. And So yeah, I'm sure he's telling the truth that he was fascinated, and I'm sure he's telling the truth that there was love there, but there was also the appeal to his darker side. You know what I'm saying? And which was too strong. He never admits that, but that's
No.
absolutely true. That's absolutely true.
Now, what we are shown is that Charlie doesn't know when the switch happened. So when Gina goes to Virginia to see what's happened with her missing sister, and you discover the maps of Lake Tahoe. And it's really, you're confused as to what her actual plans are. Are we to take away from that, yes, Charlie knew they were switching, but he didn't know when or how they were doing it?
I think that is correct, because I was also confused. I was like, well, I thought that he's always known. So
Yeah.
like, why does he seem to be confused by this? I think that he sometimes doesn't know exactly when, or definitely exactly how. The lengths to which they go, John, they match scars. They
Yeah. match,
any little change, you know what I mean? Like they go so hard in the paint with the switching. So, I'm a father. And there have been times when I know one of my daughters is doing something. I don't know how she's doing it, and I don't know exactly when she's doing it.
I've got 3 teenagers, so I know exactly what you mean.
So you know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so I think it was that. I think he was just confused. And then also there is genuine concern for their whereabouts. There's that one time I think where Gina's gone missing
at the police station.
Yeah, and we got the big argument outside the police there, outside the hospital. So he definitely cares. He doesn't want anybody to get hurt,
And you make a statement outside that police station to Lenny where you say, we both know what happens to Gina when she gets in this way.
That's right.
That's right. That was a very important statement hidden in there that I found fascinating. Now, at the very end, when we see the two of you together, the last line of the show is literally, I will figure out which of the two you are. Okay? And then the show ends. Now that the secrets have been revealed, and for a potential sequel that it may continue, what do you think Charlie's approach, now that everything's out in the open, what would you think he would do? Not knowing, I mean, what do you think how does he handle this new situation now?
Wow, you know what, John? I have no idea. And this is one of the reasons why. I've kind of thought about it. Like, okay, if there was a sequel, what would they do? Where do we go from here? You know what I mean? And thank God I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
Because I really can't answer that question. I wish I had an interesting. I don't know. I really don't know.
Exactly.
I think this might be a situation. Not everything. They always want to cover not cover their tracks, but they always want to set things up for the possibility of a sequel, just in case. But not everything. Some things are best just left weirdly unfinished.
Exactly.
And that's the whole point, is that it's weirdly unfinished. I think that's one of Charlie's lines as well. Big emotional scene that happens in the hotel room, and he says something about it was just left unfinished.
Yeah.
I think it's okay for the show to not have a sequel.
I agree. I agree.
If you guys want to do that, call me up. I'll be there.
Do you think there are lines in the sand that Charlie will not cross? Or is he so obsessed with their lifestyle, what they've done, that may really obscure his judgment?
I think that, his judgment, obviously, yes, could be obscured. When you say lines that don't cross, in what way? Like, what do you mean by that?
Continue more down a darker path. I mean, we saw him keep the secret, observe, fascinated, love them both. Yeah. But we know that Lenny has become sort of a sociopath. She's capable of murder. We know that. So sort of more like be manipulated by Lenny. If Charlie can be manipulated, he is very smart and possibly fall into her traps, into doing stuff that he never thought he would be able to do.
Yeah, I don't think that Charlie. I think that there are definite lines in the sand that Charlie would not cross, no matter how much he might love either of them. But with Lenny in particular, he's not gonna conspire with her to murder other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or willingly participate in anything like that. No, absolutely not.
I agree. During that party scene in Virginia, there's a moment where you're having a conversation where it sort of feels like there are more skeletons that Charlie has in his closets that we don't get to find out about.
Mm.
When you were building up this backstory to play this character, uh, did that ever come into play? How did you build a backstory to get into the mindset of Charlie?
Well, Quentin Peoples helped a lot with that. He is like basically the creator, showrunner,
Yeah,
executive producer. And we had a bunch of writers, and they helped a lot with that. Also, though, we didn't have a tremendous amount. I did not have a tremendous from the time that I got the offer to the time when I had to show up and start shooting. There's a very small window.
yeah,
Normally, you would have, if you had more preparation time, you could get into your journaling as the character and doing all kinds of stuff to try to like build a backstory for your character to make it as real as possible. By the way, these are for you and your audience. These are often things that you can't really play on screen. It undergirds and supports your portrayal of the character.
yeah.
But sometimes backstory, like what are his other secrets? What was his past? That kind of thing. They didn't give me a lot of that. I had to take Charlie mostly off of the page, and because the story was so weird, I was mostly focused on what was on the page. John, I didn't even know the first time I read the scripts. I didn't know when it was Lenny, when it was Gina, when it was Lenny as Gina, and when it was Gina as Lenny. I had no idea.
So you were like us.
And I was calling them, and calling the producer. They're like, Daniel, it's not you. Everybody's having this problem. We're going to have to track this with like color-coded Post-it notes throughout 7 scripts. So that was the main homework assignment. I don't know what Charlie's other secrets might be, but
now your scenes primarily are opposite of Michelle Monaghan, a great actress. She had to play Gina, Lenny. What was it like working with Michelle as she transformed from Lenny to Gina? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was a masterclass, really, because I've never had to do that. That's a degree of difficulty. I can tell you, as somebody who knows how we actors make the donuts, that is a solid 9 out of 10 in terms of hard to do.
Yeah.
So she had to do every scene with that contain that where Lenny where Gina Lenny and Gina where Lenny and Gina were in the same scene. Michelle has to shoot those scenes twice. She has to play Gina, then she with a body double as Lenny, then she has to play Lenny with a body double as Gina in front of a green screen. But as if she's acting with herself. And It's crazy how they cut that together. And you would never know. You would literally think that there's 2 Daniels sitting here. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It is the weirdest thing. So watching her do that was amazing. She was also very generous. She worked horrifically long hours. She would be there first and leave last. And I mean, week after week after week. I did not envy that at all. And I was also very gratified to work with Matt Bomer. He's super talented. I mean, his performance in The Normal Heart to this day, I think, is one of the best things I've ever seen.
Yes.
And we were both, we've known each other for years because we were both on the USA Network. He was obviously, it's not Suits. It's White Collar.
Yeah.
And I was on Graceland. Both shows created by Jeff Easton. So I've had a long relationship with Matt. So getting to work with him was great. He's a nice guy, but unfortunately, he's not very good looking. That's a joke. I've never seen more perfect symmetry on a human face than Matt Bomer. It was a great experience, John. And Michelle was just a dream. She was fantastic.
Now, Charlie has money. It's sort of mentioned that he comes from family money. Is that true? Is Charlie old family money, or is he a self-made man?
I think he definitely has some family money, but I don't know if it's like old money. We're not talking Martha's Vineyard money. Like old money. Succession money. I don't think we're talking about that. I think that he definitely got an inheritance, and I think that he's also made a tremendous amount of money again as a clinician, as a psychotherapist. But did you see that house in West Hollywood?
Oh my God,
baller! Oh man, yeah. Very nice.
Karen Robinson was our guest a couple of weeks ago, and she did a great
Uh,
job playing Sheriff Floss.
yeah,
I posed a question to her that really one of the undertone themes of of this show is how one little lie leads to another until you're ultimately trapped in a situation that you cannot get out of. What are
yeah,
your thoughts on that?
that is 100% true. And I think I learned that lesson as a younger man painfully.
Yeah,
Just, through many different situations. You try, even when your intentions are good, and it's this little white lie. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Yeah. I
and it
mean, ultimately, the
snowballs.
way out is, what'd you say?
It snowballs.
It snowballs on you. Before you know it, you're trapped in the snowball. You're rolling downhill, and the only way out is, ultimately, it's always ugly. So
Yeah.
it's best to try to be honest as we can, unless your girlfriend asks you if she looks fat in those jeans.
Oh god, yeah.
Totally lie. Then you should
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are
lie.
the rules of
Don't go there.
marriage that every man knows. Daniel, I want to thank you so much. Your
Thank you.
portrayal of Charlie in Echoes was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
You brought such life to this character in ways that I cannot even describe. The whole cast was brilliant, and all of you did a fantastic job. What was your greatest takeaway from doing this series?
Man, my greatest takeaway. Um, I don't know, John. It was like there. I mean, it was. This sounds so superficial, but in terms of an accomplishment, like first of all, I've always wanted to work on Netflix.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do a limited series. It was a straight offer, which I was shocked when my people called me, and I was like, I don't even have to audition. They're like, no, they just want you. I was like, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And the fact that we didn't know how well the show would perform, I was hoping that we would get into the top 10, but the fact that we held down the number one spot for about 2.5 weeks,
Exactly.
that was amazing. So that was fantastic. Getting to work with the people that you've already mentioned, most especially Michelle. That was, and I learned so much from watching her. Um, and then the opportunity to play such an interesting, weird, kind of corrupted but well-meaning dude in the form of Charlie
Yeah.
Davenport. It's just all of that. There was no one particular thing.
That's
But I want to leave you with this, John. You have given me the most thoughtful interview that I've had in this entire process. And when I say this
wow.
process, I don't mean today. I'm talking over the course of the last 6 to 8 months where we've been doing any kind of
Yeah.
press for the show. The questions that you asked, look, I had to remember. I was like, well, he knows more about the show than I do. Like, you're
Thank you.
super prepared, man. You are a very consummate professional. You're
Thank you,
very good at what you
Daniel.
do.
That is
Yeah,
such a huge compliment, and it
yeah,
means
yeah,
so
yeah.
much to me. You are
Yep.
amazing. I want to thank our guest, Daniel Sunjata. Again, guys, the show is called Echoes. It's a 7-part limited series available now on Netflix. If you haven't already seen it, check it out. As soon as you watch it, you'll end up binge watching it straight through. It's amazing. I want to thank Daniel. I want to thank our viewers, those who are tuning in live and those who will watch later on. On behalf of Daniel and myself, stay safe. And until next time, stay walking. Bye, everybody.
Peace and love.